Good morning, Seller Sessions. Isabella Hamilton, your host here, CEO of Ring Bell, and I have the pleasure and honor this morning to speak to a wonderful human being, Miss Michelle Clark. How are you this morning?
Awesome. Great to be here. Thank you for having me, Isabella. You're amazing.
Finally,
Absolutely fabulous.
after all this time, we get to be on a podcast together, and I got to see you at Billion Dollar Summit, and I mean, you're just an amazing person, but you really helped me pull some things together for the for the last conference I was in. But for those who don't know you, give us a little background into who Miss Michelle is.
I'm an e-commerce seller. I sell on Amazon and online, and I got into it back in 2018. A lot of people that I really trust and respect were getting into the industry, and I said, "What's this about? What's this? What's going on with this?" So
When
I
was
started
this, Michelle? What year
when
was
was 2018 was when I started. And I've always been a networker. My background is in human resources. I was an executive for a tech company, doing point of sale retail. So I saw the whole, you know, physical industry side of it when it comes to that. So I knew there was a whole wave of change happening in the industry. So when I found out about e-commerce, I said, okay, let me catch this wave. Let me get onto this because a lot of stores were closing, huge chains. Macy closed a lot of their locations, hundreds of locations. I knew people that worked there, and so I could see it from the ground level that this change was coming. So yeah, so I'm now selling promotional products to business owners, to people who want to market as well. And then I also managed to get into real estate as well. So just interested in being well diversified and, having a lot of things going on always.
I know that's you, and that's why it's always so impressive to me because the more time I spend with you, it's like you keep unveiling to me other sides of yourself and all the things that you do, and it always like impresses me because not a lot of people can handle multiple different ventures that they're in. And usually, if they do, they're kind of related to each other. But I feel like what you do is just so different and so many different ways, so you keep reinventing yourself. So when you started Amazon, did you feel like, okay, this was something I can control? Did you like it? Like, what were some aspects of it that really attracted you to this field?
The thing that really attracted me to it, number one, and it's still true to this day, is that you can scale it very quickly. You can put in systems, put in teams, put in people, and me with my background in human resources, building teams, that's, everything I'm about. So that really appealed to me. People getting together and networking and helping each other was an aspect that really speaks to me personally, because I don't think it's like 6 degrees of separation in the world anymore. I think it's more like two people, you're two people apart from everyone. So
Yeah.
the
That's
networking
such a
aspect,
good
and
way.
yeah.
That's such a good way to put it, by the way. Because if you think about it, I mean, we like to make things a little bit more complicated than they are. So I love the way you put it. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. So, yeah, I think that was it. That it's very quick to scale. You can put in systems, you can put in teams, and there's really no limit. There's no limit to what you can do. And I think there was another podcast that I saw from Manuel Suarez, where he has a marketing company for big people like Grant Cardone, all kinds of people. So he talked about how now in business it's completely different than it was even 10 years ago, even 30 years ago, where you have now technology. You can reach people instantly by a post or doing something positive. You send out a good message, you're going to get something good back. But the ability to conduct business is on a whole other scale now.
Mm.
People have way more opportunity now with technology tools that we have versus 10, 20 years ago. So
So you're not of the idea that, especially Amazon got too congested and there's too much competition? Like, what is your take? Because that's one thing that, a lot of people say, like, don't get into Amazon. It's too much. It's no longer what it used to be. What is your take on that?
I do think that there's a sweet spot in any industry. There's waves of change that happen. I do know a lot of people who made a lot of money very early on in Amazon, and always the ones early to the game that do it right are going to be the ones that benefit the most. But that doesn't mean that anybody couldn't start today. I think it's really important people do their due diligence. They don't go into something uninformed and unprepared of what challenges they might be expected to face. And I think it really comes down to common sense. If you see a really hot product and you see that there's 100 other sellers that are brand new getting into it, that might not be the best time. And I'll tell you about this. I'll tell you a story. So I was going to do protein powder. This was 2019, I think. 2000, yeah, maybe 20. Yeah, anyways, at the time I did my market research. There was really only 2 sellers on Amazon doing vegan protein powders, and I waited 6 months. I was doing my due diligence. I didn't act on it quickly enough, and by the time I was prepared to say, okay, I'm going to launch a product, this is going to be my manufacturer, this is what's going to happen, there was already like 25 new sellers. So I think timing of the market is also really important too. I mean, it comes down to really anything in life, common sense, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
I that's one thing. It's like, when is it time to act on it? Because you're right. Like, you do your preparation and you do diligence and you track the market and you see what comes, what goes. But it's like, when is the time? Like, sometimes waiting too long is too
Mm-hmm.
long, right? So in your case, do you feel like, had you started right when you had the idea, or at least moved a little faster, you would have been able to be maybe a forerunner for like that specific niche? What do you think?
Yeah. I think if I had acted quicker and um, gotten things together, I did kind of take my time because I did have, a beauty brand. And so I was a bit distracted. But
Mhm.
I think if I had gotten into it a little earlier, it would have definitely helped me with that. After seeing all the competition that came out, they saw the same opportunity I did. They jumped on it sooner. They hit the market at the right time.
Mm. Do you feel like, when, as an Amazon seller, when you start, you should kind of continue in the same niche? Or do you feel like the skills that you acquire when you first launch a product can kind of translate into other niches as well? Or how do you see the difference between niches by to make the products?
Yes. Yeah, I do think product knowledge is really important because you have to educate the consumer, right? In some products more than others, but there's always an education process to some degree of whether it's why your brand is different or better, or what it does versus your competition, all of these things. But I do think that ultimately you're a business owner. Ultimately, you have a service or you have a product that you're trying to get others to value. So I think when it comes to that, being in different markets and different niches is a good thing, a healthy thing, because there's going to be times where products dip or products become more popular. There's different seasons. If you have a product that's for a specific season. So I think that it's, you know, if you run a business, you can run another business. It's
Mhm.
just setting up the structure and knowing really who your client is, your avatar, and being able to, communicate that effectively. And I think once you tap into that for yourself, the sky is the limit, really.
Interesting. Interesting perspective. So, with the same amount of skills and knowledge and team formation, you can replicate that same model to different niches, is what you're saying. As
Yes,
long
yes.
as you identify the avatar. Do you think that identifying that avatar at first, that is pretty much like, that is a very important feature, like one of the most important things?
Yeah, because that's who you're going to figure out who your target market is, right? So who you're advertising, what do they want to see? What do they like to consume? What Facebook groups are they part of? All of these things. And that'll
So
help you.
if you heard somebody say, "Oh, my ideal client is everyone that shops on Amazon," what do you say to that?
I say you've got your work cut out for you, because how do you build a marketing campaign around everyone? You have to pick something. You have to pick at least one thing that you can focus on, that you can effectively, translate and communicate about, right?
Mm,
Because when you reach everyone, you reach no one,
mm.
right?
Exactly. I mean, that's the point I was getting at, and this is it's something that it's been coming up a lot lately with my clients. Trying to figure out who is that special person that you are trying to attract. Because a lot of people think, oh, everybody who has a card and shops on Amazon, but it's so much more different than that. Because, like you said, if you try to reach everyone, you're reaching no one.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you have done that you recall in the beginning that helped you kind of zone into that avatar and who that person is? Like, what were some things that you did to find that out?
Yeah, I did a lot of testing with my social media posts on Instagram. I would post something and then see what kind of reactions I
Mhm.
got. When I would do my pictures on my listing, I would test something out for a week, see what kind of responses came into that, and then try something else. And so it's just a lot of tweaking, a lot of adjusting. These large marketing companies get paid big dollars because they know already, right? You're tapping into their knowledge and know-how. So you're kind of having to have the burden of starting that from scratch because you don't know. And that can change too. I think also getting that going is great, but you have to keep it fresh always. You have to keep things current. People like to see new things. You're always testing. I really don't feel, if you're in business, you're never not testing
Mm.
to
So
see how far you can reach.
is that something that you do periodically, like for example the split testing, and keep refining that avatar for you? Is that something that you have, like, okay, every through 3 months we're going to see, like, is our audience still on the same path with us, or what are your I guess ideas when it comes to like scheduling those, or do you even schedule something like this? Like, how do you
Uh,
make sure that your
yeah,
avatar is
yeah.
always there?
That's a good question. That's a good question. And I think anytime you make a change or you do a post, really every single one is a test, right?
Mhm.
You're always checking, always checking, always checking. And then maybe you're going back to something that worked really well because you start getting off course. And if you're looking at it, if you're looking at the sales data and the responses from social media, you can pretty much see pretty quickly what is working and what isn't, and you can go back to what works. It's okay to go back to something that was good for you. You don't have to feel like, oh, but it has to be different, it has to be fresh. Yeah, but look at the data.
Would you launch a new product today?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, I would. um and to get back to your other question about what I did, some of the things I did to find my avatar was I went into a lot of Facebook groups. Actually, I went into people who are, the ones I think might be interested in my products, the ones who are, you know, I think, and then I would go in and I would start conversations and I would see, hey, what do you think about this? Or and natural, not like I'm trying to pitch them something, but I really want to know. And
Mhm.
that really took me leaps and bounds. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
What's one thing that you feel in your experience that it's like kind of easy and simple to do that would really make an impact in a brand that most people wouldn't even know? Like, do you have like a trick or
Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, and I
hard
don't get
question? Good
credit for
morning,
this.
sorry.
No, I do. There is a really good trick, and I can't take credit for it. My friend Chelsea Cohen spoke about this at an Amazon
Chelsea,
event.
let's go. She's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Shout out to Chelsea.
So one of the things that's very easy is you can talk about in the first bullet of your listing why your product is better than the others, right? What yours does better than theirs on the first bullet. Um, Not bashing the other product, but just talking about why yours is better. Again, it's about educating, right? And you want people to feel trust with your brand. And so that's something that's very easy that everyone can very easily do.
That can do now immediately. That can.
Hmm.
What about like doing a whole like rebranding in a sense of your product just to kind of keep it fresh? And what do I mean by this? Maybe do something simple like changing out all the images. Like, do you see sellers do that? I feel like a lot of people will go with their first like set of pictures and then they never kind of refresh the brand. Is Do you feel like that will help? That would give it a boost to somebody just doing that alone?
Yeah, I do. I do. And I think that's part of testing, right? Your listing pictures, all of these things. You have to keep giving people something that they know that they're expecting to see, but maybe you can express it in a more attractive way, or a way that expresses the brand better, or maybe even just more interesting pictures,
Hmm.
something that it differentiates you from your competitors. That's something people should really be doing all the time.
I love that. I love that. So
Yeah.
there are little things that you could be doing every month or so that keeps like sprucing it up, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Love
Yeah, I
that.
mean, just think about big brands like a Revlon or Laura Mercier or whatever. That's what I use. But I mean, every week you're seeing a different advertisement. You're seeing the product expressed in a different way. So, you know, it's really something that takes a team to keep going.
Right. So walk me through. So you open your Amazon store and you're like, I really enjoyed this. And then you were doing that for a while and then you moved on to merch, or how did that came in, the promotional
Hmm.
products and all that? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so just very simple. I got into e-commerce while I was working my full-time job, right? Because you have to have some other flow of income. To think you're going to go from your job to e-commerce and start living off of that business is very unrealistic unless you have, some investors or something else going on. So I was working my, 9 to 5 job as a VP Human Resources, and my father got sick,
Mm.
and I wasn't in Austin. I wasn't here in Texas to help him on a regular basis. And I said, I can't see the future in this structure. I need to have a way that I can go to Austin on a regular basis for business. I can help him, be there with him, and still, live in Phoenix with my home and my life there and everything. So I was able to find a company that was failing in the promotional products industry, through my networking and, connections. And I purchased it. I left my day job, and then I set it up where I took over the offices here in Austin. I came to Austin on a regular basis. I could spend time with my dad, check in with him, and I created an office in Phoenix, Arizona. And I was able to, have my business fund my travel, and it worked for the life situation that was happening at the time. And so while I was doing that, I was building my e-commerce as well. But the funnest part, because I love networking, I
Yes,
was
yes.
able to connect with some really beautiful, really powerful people. One of them being Athena Severi. We put on some masterminds, some really intimate, but with some amazing speakers, um, really knowledgeable people in this space very early on. And it was a blast. I enjoyed that part of it very much. And even just for my benefit of getting to know these people better and getting to gain their insight, not so much for making money, right? So that's something I love to do whenever I get the opportunity to do that.
You're just so versed at so many things, and it can be, for other people like thinking of just starting one business is so scary, right? And here comes you, that you're just like business after business after business. Why do you think, what makes you any different? Or is it the fear? You have no fear of starting a business? Or what do you think you have that others don't when it comes to like
I
starting businesses?
Yeah, no, I think I do have a little bit of an advantage because of my career in human resources. I know the value of SOPs, standard operating procedures, um, scaling a team, the different life cycles that it goes through naturally. Um, and it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been without fear. There's times where, the cash flow is not making a lot of sense and you wonder where you went wrong and you have to kind of get things back on track. With my beauty brand, I had some challenges very early on. That was a learning curve. So you just have to understand that you have to be brave, and you need to understand that you don't know everything. But you have to acknowledge uh, the things that you don't know, so you can start preparing to educate yourself about those things and put to task, reading the material you need to read and look at, and or looking at YouTubes, and doing the research for yourself. And it's fine to hear someone else talk about something and what they did, like we're talking today, but that's only going to take you so far. You have to put the foot into the water. You have to start that process. And I think a lot of people think this stuff happens really quickly. So
Mm.
there's kind of a misconception, because they go, oh, this person, I saw them, they had a job and now they don't. And to that person, it seems like it happened so quick. But
Overnight
maybe they,
success, right?
yeah,
Overnight success.
yeah. But maybe they were working on this for 6 years, little by little on the weekends, when they, after they put their kid to bed, and you know what I mean? So um, the result seems instant, but you don't know the due diligence that they've done over that time to get to that point. And
Mm.
every person is their own journey. I think a little bit of bravery, um, a lot of curiosity, and the willingness to fail are the most important things.
That is beautiful, Michelle, to say. Willing to fail. That's not something a lot of people like, do they?
No, no. And that's why, I mean, you have to do your due diligence. If you're going to go into a business, don't go to it into it and be in a position where you're able to cut yourself short. Have some, money cushion set aside. You know, have something that you are willing to lean on, whether that's a person or finances or external resources, because you will need help. You can't do it all by yourself. It's not going to happen.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's definitely another very important thing, which, a lot of entrepreneurs, that's something that they struggle in the beginning, that letting go of the control is just so, we like controlling things. I mean,
Yeah.
myself included, right? We want things to come out a certain way. But I feel like, even for me, like as I grow older and wiser, I am a little bit more patient with myself as well, right? Like, okay, you wanted this to happen today, but it didn't. And it's okay. It's not the end of the world. So it's like we go through these coaching moments ourselves. Like I
Yes.
find myself coaching and myself, right? At this age, I'm like, you shouldn't really do that. You shouldn't really say that. But it's funny because now, because I've been, a little bit more focused on even how I think, like watching my thoughts and watching my action. I'm like, why did I get mad? Like, as I'm still mad, like, why did I get mad at this? And it's like, okay, next time, try to like be better. But it's funny now because it's like a conversation with myself. But we need
Yeah.
that, right? We need that.
Reflection, and yeah,
Mhm.
and people have good things for this. Like some people journal, some people have photos of things where they kind of take a visual catalog of everything. And reflection is really important because it'll help us see how far we've come, and when you can look back on that, it really kind of boosts you up a little bit, because maybe you accomplished some things that you didn't realize there was a point where you thought you would never be capable of doing that.
Yeah.
But how would you know or remember if you didn't reflect, right? So I
That's
think
such
that's
a
really
good point.
important.
Yeah, I didn't used to do that until recently. And when I say recently, I mean really recent, where I started like journaling, because even
Mm-hmm.
in the past, I was like, oh, even journaling, like you have to know where you're going to write. And it's so like, we're such control freaks, And now,
Uh-huh.
because I've been doing literally forcing myself, Michelle, I'm like, okay, I'm going to write like one paragraph. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. The more you do it, just like with anything, kind of comes a little easier and easier. And sometimes it's just random things, and sometimes like, oh wow, that was really smart.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really admire that about you, because you're always looking for improvement. And I think that's a magical ingredient for any business owner. It's always looking for, how can I get deeper into this? How can I perfect whatever your craft is, uh, getting better and better and more connection with yourself. And I mean, it's just really fantastic to see. And I really appreciate you, because you're very brave. In this space, we don't have a lot of women who can be the forefront for
Mhm,
everyone, right? I see a lot of leadership, female leadership roles within women's groups,
mhm.
not groups for everybody. So I really appreciate that in you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
that.
I appreciate you saying that. And, in the beginning, it was a little tougher because, you are invited to speak on stages and go to different events. And, the first initial is like, oh my God, what is everybody going to think? And then as you do this more often, you realize that it has nothing to do with you. It's never had anything to do with you. So once you shift that mindset from like, oh, everybody's here to see me, to like, how can I help those in the audience today? It like it takes the pressure of being that perfect human, right? So if you were saying stories, I have a story to tell. So I've always thought, going on stage, and I would like pull myself up and freak myself out sometimes. And I'm like, like, what if I fall on the stage, like off the stage, or walking off the stage, like something really, really, really embarrassing, right? So when I
What
went
a
to
memorable moment that would be.
right? So when I went to BDSS, as I finished, I had two presentations, one for anatomic and one for rank bell. So as I finished rank bell and I walked down the steps, I trip. I don't fall, I trip. But it was
Oh,
just,
no.
it really made me like, this whole time, this moment, it's always something I've been thinking of. And I'm like, you know what? Like, and I even said to the people that were sitting there that were like, oh my God, she almost fell on her face. I was like, you know what? I deserve this. Like, I always bring it up in my mind. Like, what if it happens? And that's another thing, it's like, be careful what you keep in your mind. Like, legit, even something stupid as like, I'm gonna trip and fall. If that's where your focus is going, you will manifest that for you.
Hmm.
So manifestation, it doesn't happen just on the good things. It happens what you put your mind to, right? I just thought
I
it's,
agree. That
yeah.
is so true. That is so true. And your body goes where your head goes, right? You push your head
Mhm,
this way, your body goes this way. It's the same way with your attention. You
mhm,
can cause things to happen if you're putting too much attention on them, or
mhm.
not putting the right message behind
Yeah.
that attention. Yeah,
I
that's
mean, this
very
is,
cute.
this is a good sign, right? This is a good sign. Like, if it works for manifesting a new client, it can manifest for you falling on your face. So be careful where your focus goes. And one trick that I use, let's say if an unpleasant thought comes, like, oh my God, I have to do this, I have to do this, then like replacing it with maybe, and not even replacing, but maybe guiding that thought in a direction that you want it to go, right? So, like, oh my
Hmm.
God, I'm afraid I'm going to fall on my face. Like, instead of saying that, just be like, okay, that's a possibility, but let's visualize an outcome where I don't fall on my face.
Right, right. Like, acknowledge and continue the process. move move through that thought. Don't
Let
stick
go
on
of
it.
that thought and move on unless you really want that to happen. But I thought it was fun. I'm like, okay, maybe now it's out of the way. That
Uh-huh.
almost happened. So now I'm good. But yeah, that's the one thing. And it's like it's one thing after another. It's like growth keeps happening. The Every time you try something that it wasn't even in your wheelhouse, you're like, I would have never thought to do that. It's like in those moments is that we find ourselves. And I have
Hmm.
a friend, which you met, Melissa, which I adore and I love, and I know you do too. Like she has a different way of interacting with the world in a sense, and she's very like peaceful in her actions, and because of it I can see how her life is just like light, if that makes
Hmm.
any sense. And it's like the more we try to like hold on to things super tight, is like that's when like constriction happens and intention. And I know you have a lot of that too. Like how do you, Michelle, center yourself? Like what are some things that you do to keep
Yes.
yourself at peace? I mean, your father's ill, and I know you help him full time. You have three Amazon brands. How
Yes.
many? You have three Amazon brands,
3. Hmm.
and you have the production of
Promotional products. Promotional products. Yeah.
and real estate
Yeah.
that you're flipping and investing and all this. So what are some things that you do throughout the day where you come back to yourself, and really just any tips you can give us, because I mean you're a super.
Sure. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to share as well. I think number one, know that change is constant. There's nothing in this world that is permanent, whether you're wealthy or poor, that is all temporary. It it's going to change at some point, whether it gets better or it gets worse. It's up to you and your opinion. Also, I think for me, I have to practice patience. I'm very impatient with myself,
Mhm.
and that is something I constantly have to work on. I constantly have to tell myself, just wait, give it time, let it breathe, because I always want things to be done now, and life doesn't work like that. You have to give sometimes things the chance to rest, the chance for your thoughts to relax. Um, but I think the biggest thing for me, that for whatever reason, ever since I was a kid, I was like this. I noticed, and I can remember the first moment I had this thought. I think I was like 3 or 4 or something. Um, when you have a view, a position, a perspective, and there's 4 other people in the room, if you can understand what each of those other 4 people see,
Mm,
you have a whole world of perspective, right?
mm.
So the more views that you have from other people, other positions, um, you kind of build your own like a 3D printer almost,
Mm.
a full view of the scenario. And so I'm always talking with people and seeing what's working for them, what is their view on this or that, and why, and
That
so that,
is so
yeah.
beautiful, Michelle. And that's like, it's almost like a secret if you think about it. Because one thing I know about humans is we really love being right. One, we
Yes.
love being right. We love knowing that we're right. And also, we love imposing our righteousness onto others. So I think
Right.
me and you have that in common because growing up, I was very shy, if you believe it or not, extremely. Like you wouldn't be able to talk to me. I would just look down. But what happened, I am very blessed and lucky that that happened to me because, like you said, I was able to absorb different perspectives from different people. So, me, just being there and listening, it's like, if you listen to a conversation between a Democrat and a Republican or whatever, right? It's like you have all these views, and it's like, I can see where he's right. I can see where she's right. I can see different things. And then you have a well-rounded view of the same fact that happened, but from two different perspectives. So when that happens, when you're open-minded in that way, you're able to accommodate to different situations
Hmm.
too. And that's not to say that, you're not going to be able to have to be swayed into one direction more than another. Of course, we're all very different and unique. However, having that ability to be open minded, I think it's so crucial in not only the ecom space, but anything that you want to do. And I think that's
Yeah.
amazing that you mentioned that, and
I
that
and I
that you had it.
I remember. It's so crazy. I remember seeing that. But I think also people think, oh well, if I'm listening to someone else's, like you mentioned, I'm going to be swayed. I don't want to be swayed.
Mhm.
I think it actually people miss the message. I think what it is you have your own personal integrity, right? You have your own view of why you, through your life, through your experiences, why you feel or view certain things a certain way. But having other perspectives only gives you the tools to have an advantage with that view, because it gives you a chance to reflect, right? It gives you a chance to compare, and you can kind of pull from other people's experiences. Like I feel I've lived many different lives in one life, because I've just been so involved with so many other people, and I've heard so many great stories, and heard so many failures, but I also get to gain from that. They give me a gift, because I
Mhm.
didn't have to spend the time going through that. I can hear about it from them,
Mhm.
and I can use my own personal integrity to say for myself, this is something I'm going to use, or this is something I'm going to look out for, or this is something that has nothing to do with me at all, and I'm just going to throw it away. So, you don't have to just take everything and replace your views with that. You can take it and kind of put it on your own judgment scale, you know, and
That's
still
such
be right.
a Yeah, that's such a superpower, Michelle. Really, really is. That ability to even change ideas. It's okay to have had a thought, the same idea for the past 10 years and then hear it another way and change it. That shows a
Hmm.
lot about a human. It shows a lot because, and a lot of the times, a lot of people get stuck on, well, I believed that I was this for 20 years. It even if they change their mind, it's almost as they don't want to let go of that control of who they showed others that they've
Hmm.
become. And it's like, well, if I do it this way, what would they think? So a lot of people, will continue living that life and that truth for them, for the fear that somebody's going to be like, oh, but you thought this for 10 years, why did you change your mind? Like, people won't change of the fear.
Hmm.
Some random person said who knows what. Like, this
Yeah.
is something that, like, it bugs me actually, that
Yeah,
people would.
I understand exactly what you're saying. I understand exactly what you're saying. And I spoke with somebody about this recently, actually. And, you know, um, I started my career in human resources when I was 20. I didn't go to college. I've done classes here and there as I needed to garner that knowledge. But, you know, I tell people about my life, and they sometimes just straight up don't believe me, right? Because how can somebody do so, how can somebody really do all of that, right? So, and I tell people, well, the people that want to criticize, that want to judge harshly, that want to disagree, that's fine. I don't need them to agree with me. And the people who really want to support me and enjoy my company, and their eyes light up when we get together, they're going to continue to be in my life. The ones that want to doubt and put salt, you
Mm.
know, they can leave when they want to, and usually they do. There's a lot of people that I've met that have been in my life at one point or another, and for whatever reason they're not around now. So
Mm. Yeah, well, when
yeah.
growth happens, that's what happens. And I can see how that can also be a fear for people. Well, if I do change, how would my life change? How would my friends, the ones that, I've been sucking up to for all this time, what would they think that now all of a sudden I don't share the same views as them? So it's like, we really have to come to a point in our life where we decide what's best for us. And, as selfish as that sound, being that selfish, right? What it does, not only aligns you on the path of greatness, but because now you have reached your full potential, now everybody around you can benefit from it. So
Hmm.
sometimes us holding ourselves back is not only we're holding ourselves back, but we're holding everyone around us, right? Because if we have the chance to grow, like, wouldn't it be better for everyone involved? Like, people should actually appreciate that about you. But that's a whole nother conversation for another time.
Yeah, and there's the whole comparison thing, especially with women, but it does happen between women and men also. Is like, oh, the idea of jealousy and feeling less than because someone else is more successful. Um, you know, and there's healthy ways to lean into that. Talk to them.
Yeah.
Say, I'm so inspired by what you do. I don't think I could ever do that. How did you do it? You have to lean into those feelings. Anything that encourages open communication is always going to be a good thing
Yeah.
because, and I feel like I'm sounding like a kumbaya something or other on this talk, but really we're all here together.
Yeah.
We're all in this place. It's
Yeah.
one world for all of us. So, you know, talk to the person, lean into the things that you're scared of. You'll probably find out something that surprises you.
That is so beautiful. And it's like the people who you wouldn't even expect, right? I mean, um,
Yeah.
not a lot of people, you would think a lot of people like come up to me and talk to me or to you or other people, but it doesn't happen as often as you think, and you don't know the kind of wealth of information somebody may have unless
Hmm.
you start a conversation with them, right? So a lot of like the ego stops us from even doing that step, right? Like, if
Right.
when you didn't get to talk, like, I wouldn't have found out like how amazing you are, you know what I mean? But it's like in those little discussions and conversation that you really don't know where that magic can come from. So, even that taking that first step, what, I'm going to talk to that person. Like, I don't like
Yeah.
them. I don't like what they do. I don't like anything about it. But you know what? Let me talk to them. You might be surprised at how your whole world will change from one conversation, especially having a conversation with those you don't necessarily agree with, which goes back to our previous
Hmm.
conversation of, expanding your mind and your view and having conversations with different people that you wouldn't even consider, right? So, like, I keep going back to politics, but if you're a Democrat, like, you should be having conversations with people from other parties, right? I mean, politics is so, like, I don't even have time to get into that. And that's maybe I should as an American citizen, but it just, I see a lot of people having this resistance. Oh, I don't want to talk to him because he's into that and I'm not into that. He's into car racing and I'm into ballet. Like, it's okay. Like, it's totally okay. And I know it sounds like we're having kids conversation, but really sometimes going back to the basics is what we need.
Yeah, and you can find common ground in really unexpected places, like between a ballerina and a race car driver. Maybe, you go through a similar kind of G-force when you do your ballet turns and when you spin out, so
I'm
you
sure
never
you would
know.
know. Well, do you know both of these fields, Michelle? It sounds like you know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, you are in Austin.
The Formula One, yeah. But I mean, I took ballet as a kid or whatever, but
There
no,
you go.
they're not fields I'm in. But
It's
yeah, so I think all these things are really important and essential with somebody who's a business owner, somebody who wants to strike out on their own, somebody who, and not a lot of these things come natural to people. Like me, I have to practice patience with myself. I get frustrated with myself quite a lot. And so, like you said about really reining in your thoughts and giving yourself that time, putting your attention on the right things. For me, I have to practice patience, and for everybody, there's going to be their own thing, you
Yeah.
know?
And I know
Yeah.
you use different tools. You're also a runner, right? Do you feel like, doing like physical exercises, that's something that you're a really big fan of, right?
Yes. Yeah. I've been always into some kind of sport, running, track, soccer, just something physical always. So I think I'm kind of conditioned to that. And running really helps clear my mind. I love to wake up in the morning and I just go, and all the noise and worries kind of go away with the
Mhm.
effort, I think. And I can just like really hone everything in and focus. I
Yeah.
saw a meme the other day. It was really funny. It's like, I'm going to replace the emotional pain with physical pain. Because,
Ooh.
working with my dad and seeing him have to go through his treatments and everything is very challenging emotionally. So that
Yeah.
helps me kind of like replacement therapy, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess, I'd rather have, sore quads than,
Yeah.
a bruised heart all day.
And that's so important because what another thing that we people try to suppress feelings, right? Like we try to suppress and hide, like, oh, I have this mountain of work, I'm just going to ignore it and binge watch this awesome show on Netflix. And what happens is like that is like, I think it's called task swell, I think it's called, where it's like, there's something that you need to be doing and it keeps growing. So it's like a lot of us want to like ignore some of those things instead of like facing them. So if we can transmute it into a different energy, so like you said, I'm taking this emotional pain and the stress that I'm going to, but instead of bottling it down, because what happens is that's how we get ill in our body as well. So what
Hmm.
good would it be that now there's two ill people in your house? Like, how are you going to deal with that? So instead of just, I mean, yeah, you're still faced with the fact that this is reality, you are going
Yeah.
through this. And what can I do? It's always like, how can we react to the situation? So in this case, the way you said is like, okay, I'm taking this, and instead of like keeping it down in my body that makes me sick, I am going to take it and actually do something for my body, right? That this is why exercise is important. And not, I mean, obviously you get the benefit of looking amazing, like you do,
Thank
but
you.
it's even more than having that physical beauty. It's more like, how can this machine run well, right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, because it's. I think for me, it gives me a lot of empowerment. Gives me a lot of empowerment to see that I took down that 5 miles so fast, and really kind of gives me that little boost for the day. And then sometimes, I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking a few minutes in the shower and just letting your emotions go. We all need that release sometimes, but yeah, you have to be your own cheerleader always. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to step in and help you do those push-ups and all of that. So I think it's important
And
to
is that
express
something you
yourself.
do every day? Do you run every day?
Yeah, yeah, every day.
Mm.
Every day. I mean, sometimes I let go on the weekends because I'm busy doing things. Like right now, I have family from out of town and I'm taking them around and showing, them the city of Austin and everything. So, um, you
And
know,
you still made time for us this morning, which I truly, truly appreciate. You're so sweet. Michelle, do you meditate?
I don't meditate. I don't meditate.
I mean,
No,
your
but
running is meditation.
I mean, what I do is I do a lot of looking out. I put my attention out. I look at my environment.
Mm,
I very much live in the moment, meaning I'm always present in
mm,
each moment that I'm in. I'm not thinking about yesterday. I'm not worrying about tomorrow. You know, I'm here. I'm present. I'm with it.
mm,
Um, I can. I love to plan. I'm a big planner,
mhm.
so a lot of energy goes towards the future when it comes to that. Um, but no, I don't think that there's a lot of good when it comes to sitting and thinking of things that have happened because
Mhm.
you can't do anything with that.
Mhm.
I want to be equipped to do something with what I'm spending my time on, right? So looking out, getting space, allowing myself to see the environment around me, to be present, to deal with what's in front of me, to decide what I want for the future. That's, I think, the most important application of that practice.
That is beautiful. So you do meditate.
Well, I, it's not most people's definition,
Well,
right?
that's the thing, and
It's
exactly the point.
postulating.
Exactly.
It's postulating. It's deciding what I want,
Mm,
deciding, on a regular basis. And it's not like I sit there and I go, I want this. It's something that I do throughout any given day. It's something that um, I'll look at once a week, and I'll say, okay, next week I have family coming to town, and these are the places I want to take them, and this is where my business is this month, and this is what I need to do to get it here, and this is
mm,
what getting it here would mean, this kind of thing.
mm. That is so
Yeah.
beautiful. Oh, Michelle, thank you so much for your time today. Tell us a little bit about the promotional products company and how can people find that, and maybe other social media platforms you're on. How can people reach you?
The best thing to do is to go to my website, austinatxpromotionalproducts.com, and to send an email, and what me or someone from my team will reach out. We do merchandise for corporations, so really any custom merchandise, apparel, embroidered polos,
And
swag bags
banners
for the next, and banners.
and banners. By the way, guys, like Michelle really hooked me up with a really nice banner for $1 Billion Summit. It was like a last minute order, and it was I mean, just badass. Like, thank you so much. You saved me big
You
time.
were
So
amazing. You
I
were
can
amazing up until 10 o'clock at night going over artwork. I mean, it was just
yeah,
such an adventure.
I know firsthand working with Michelle. Not only it's amazing, but her products are out of this world perfection. So
Yes.
like just like everything else that you do. So
Thank you. And I would recommend Rinkbell as well. And I mean, I've used your services. They're phenomenal. A fantastic company, a fantastically run company.
thank you.
And I really appreciate all that you're doing for everybody out there. Rinkbell is the solution in this space.
Oh my
I
God.
I I do know that you're, anytime I speak with somebody about this industry, they say Rinkbell every time. So you're doing the right things. I can tell. I can
You're
tell.
so kind. You're so kind. You're so kind. I didn't pay her to say this, guys. I didn't pay her. I'll
No.
pay you after. I'll pay you after, Michelle. I'll pay you after. No, thank you for being here today. I know you have family in town, and say hi to dad. And I miss you and love you so much. You're a phenomenal human, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much. I feel the same about you. And we're going to talk soon. I can't wait to hear about Anatomic.
Let's go.
Okay. All